Quick update. I'm actually really now incredibly excited about this. I was pretty excited about it before because I'm putting a mini body on a cheap crawler body that I've modified to kind of a mediocre crawler body. Anyway, I had been kind of racking my brain about how I was going to mount this on there and feel good about how sturdy it was, and that it wasn't just going to pop off because it was magnetized, or be just generic because it was Velcro, or have to poke holes in the roof because I was going to use the posts. Or the one idea I was very hopeful for, but it just won't work because the ride height isn't going to work just right, but maybe using these to kind of get sort of an RC four-wheel drive pin kind of setup where, you know, the body kind of mounts from, you know, 4 different locations, like right underneath where the doors are at, and then it's like pinned in the tail, in like the bed of like a TF2. So I was thinking that maybe this worked. No, it's not going to get the proper ride height. What I did end up discovering, came up with, is that the original bumpers from this chassis, not only are they adjustable, but they're set with 2 screws in the end on both the front and the rear. So considering all of that, we flip this over real quick, take a peek of where this all sits. This is where it kind of turns into, this is going to be one of the coolest things I think I've ever done on at least as far as like modding a body onto, because this is really going to be perfect, because not only is this going to be really sturdy, it's going to allow me to adjust how far forward and back by being able to use the original bumper mounts, right? Take the posts off of the bumpers, drill through where they're going to be on the front, so all you're going to see is just the screw locations, correct? And then be able to screw in from the front and the rear, so all you're going to see is basically 2 screws on the back and 2 screws on the front, and it's going to give me the exact ride height that I'm looking for, which is this. I cannot wait to see what this looks like. It's going to give me plenty of room for all of the travel that the wheels need for the, you know, for flex. I think steering is probably going to work out pretty well too. I might need to take some out of the back corners of the fenders, a little bit on the front, but just preliminarily looking at it, I couldn't be happier. So anyway, to show you the inside, I've got front and rear LEDs all hot glued into location. I went with kind of like more of like a vintage yellow, orangish sort of color up front, and then in the back I went with red, of course. So just really simple for LEDs. So that stuff's all in. And now I'm going to go ahead and remove the rock slider mounts because those are just no longer going to be necessary, and then kind of push forward with getting the bumper mounts all switched over and get that all set. So next time the camera's turned on, you should be able to see this at the next phase of me trying to figure out how I'm going to size all of that properly. All right, here's a little update while the pizza's in the oven. I now have the posts in here. I haven't screwed anything in yet, but these are in place and ready to go. So I am going to now figure out just where this wants to sit. I am just absolutely beside myself over how, I'm not trying to say how good of an idea I had here, but I'll be darned if I'm not trying to say how good of an idea I had here. This is really, I think, gonna be like the, I don't even know. I like it though. I think what I'll do, it seems to be right on this line, right at this point over the top of this ridge. So I think I might go for like the, that's right in between. I might scoot it back to yep, I'm gonna go with the third on that one. All right, now I'm at the point where I either totally ruin this project or totally succeed. I've got my holes marked where I want to poke through the body here, kind of just double checking to make sure that things are pretty centered. I realize that these aren't exactly perfect, but I don't want, you know, things to be too far off either. There is a little bit of, you know, play from side to side too with the boarding posts, so if they're not 100% one way or the other, I can certainly adjust with that. I just want to make sure that you get one shot and kind of one shot only with this, so I don't want to get it too bad. Get a pretty good chance of getting it just right, actually. So what I'm going to use is a number 60.04 drill in a really old antique drill. So I'm not going to do that on camera because I don't want you guys making fun of me. So anyway, I'm going to drill those holes and I'll get right back to it, and we'll let you know how it went. Okay, holes are drilled. What I noticed is that they're a little tight. So I just take the very tip of my hobby knife and just sort of ream that hole out a little bit. So I'm just going to do that to the front really quick as well. I don't want to clean them out too much. I do want a little bit of resistance, enough for that thread to sort of bite into. They'll eventually open up and clean out, you know, themselves as time goes on, you know, from threading in and out of this thing. But I just want to make it a little bit easier for them to go through so the plastic doesn't crack or anything like that. Make sure those threads are cut initially. It's probably just going to help you, you know, in your first mounting. So that way you're not trying to fight something like this into the hole that you're trying to get it in, as well as control where it's going into and so on and so forth on the other side. So let's do the same thing to the front here real quick. Go ahead and set this down. I have not soldered any wiring together yet. That's going to be this is going to be probably the last phase of this little project I got going on here. My first major goal was to ensure that this whole thing was, this proof of concept was actually going to work. So I think I'm sitting pretty. I'm thinking looking pretty good here. Things can sort of centered. Tight squeeze, folks. Tight squeeze. A little bit of a nerve wracker there, but it's on there. Oh my gosh, it's on there. Look at this. It's on. And I have access to my power switch back here. Oh, it's alive. Look at that. All right. It's a little torque twisty. All right, I'll be back in a minute. All in all, it's an absolute blast. It does crawl a little bit, In fact, it crawls fine. It crawls pretty much the same way the chassis would without this body sitting on it. It's just that it sort of adds a little bit of, a couple complications in a couple areas, and it's mainly just with a couple of contact areas. But I've got some ideas I think I might try. Anyway, the body modification has just been absolutely awesome. Did run into a problem here on the front end where those got a little tight. You can see where that one's kind of, the one on this side over here is kind of pointed in a little further. However, what ended up happening in the front, I mean, those are as centered and equally spaced as they needed to be. So not 100% sure what took place there. Maybe I just put them too narrow together, I guess. I'm not sure. The back turned out just awesome. Couldn't be more happy with how that all came together. I mean, realistically, I mean, this thing is just, it's so solid. It's all one. I mean, the body is now one with the chassis and everything. I mean, the mounting on this is just fabulous. I couldn't be any more happy, more pleased with how this whole thing is really going. And as you can see, what I've got going on here is a little bit of masking. I've got it masked off so I can turn the inside of this black. I'm just gonna hit it with flat. That way you don't really see too much from underneath from low angle filming. You'll still see some stuff because I'm not going to do any wheel wells or anything like that. At least not now. I'm not going to invest that kind of time and energy into it. But you can see on this side, or this fender at least, I've got this just cut and traced out. I wanted to put a black line that sort of replaced what was there for once, what once upon a time was the fender. So just kind of put a little bit more of a defining line edge. So I'm going to go around and do that all the way. That's actually a fairly easy thing to do if you have some knife skills. Quick note before I hit the paint, just a couple things that I like to do. I just ran a zip tie on both sides of that just to kind of clean things up, really pulls everything together so that way it's all going to get hit. You don't have wires in the way. Obviously I want to paint the wires, but I don't want to paint the connector, and I also want to keep, just the last couple of colors or a couple of inches of everything, just to be able to ID color. Just in case I need to separate anything, blah, 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 blah. So I just hit that with some tape. Like I said, I'm going to run around and make sure all the edges are nice and tightened up and go paint it. Back in a bit. I'm not even sure when I started working on this. I know it was quite some time ago, earlier today, but it's finally got a coat of paint on the interior. So that's all blacked out, and then I hit it with a coat of clear. It's got a little bit of a gloss to it, but I'm not really too concerned about that. It was flat paint with a flat clear, and still ended up with a little bit of a sheen to it. So, but it's not really that bad. It's fine. And then too, I think the detail around the wheel wells is going to actually kind of set it off really well. So before I strip the tape off of there, I will retrace my cuts just to make sure that I don't peel anything up that didn't either take really well right at that edge, or whatever, just any bleed that occurs or anything along those lines. I'm trying to decide whether or not I want to put any stickers on it just yet. I did want to add a couple to sort of give it kind of a rally car appearance in some ways. Maybe do like something down like doors underneath the mirrors, but I'm not 100% sure. I have a couple stickers to choose from. I want to keep it kind of simple. I don't want to go too crazy. I might not even put anything on it at all. I got one of the headlights masked off here. So basically the same thing. I just went around the edge of that with the toothpick. And now all I'm going to do is just trace that line with my hobby knife very gently. That should, with a nice fresh clean blade, that should cut really, really easily. Sing it, girl. Okay, now that you've made it all the way around, with any luck, we'll be peeling away a nice headlight masking. So we're just gonna hit the chrome on that and not the lens itself. All right, a quick update here before I head out and throw some clear coat on this thing. I have spent the last couple of hours, yes, believe it or not, that much time, going through and masking, remasking all the details. And then as well, I added stickers for sponsorships and stuff like that. Clearly, I'm not sponsored by anything. None of these guys give the channel any money or anything like that. Pardon the motorcycle that just drove by. But, you know, RC 4-wheel drive and all the other companies just send so many stickers out. Why not, you know, just take the time to just plaster some and do some cool arrangements. So I did fast eddy bearings on the back, because yes, there are some fast eddy bearings in the outsides of the axles, not the insides. They didn't have that side or that size, but I had 4, so there are legit fast eddies in there. So obviously, you know, between Interco and Abe RB and stuff like that, and the GXL is actually from a killer body Land Cruiser thing, but I thought the GXL in chrome would look good, and kind of something I'm actually really proud of. Here, check this out. Out of that Land Cruiser kit, there was a small, a little batch of like pinstriping. You can see here where my thumb is reflecting on where that's at along the bottom edge. And I decided to add that because it sort of broke up the bottom body edge a little bit more. So it follows this line around the fender, and it keeps the trace going this way. But then, you know, it gets broken off here, but then it still continues all the way down to the very bottom edge of the body itself. So I thought that was just kind of a cool detail to sort of add, and I think it's going to have a little bit of curb appeal. Like I said, I'm about to hit this with flat. And reason being is because I really like flat, dull finish cars. I just think they kind of have a racy appearance, kind of like just sort of that matte primer color. And I wanted to dull down all of the chrome on this. I wanted to have it be silver, but you know, just existing below the surface. I also really went heavy on the Patagonia Milestar stickers on the hood, kind of give it that sort of European one single racing stripe kind of effect. And again, you know, it's just because RC 4-wheel drive just sends out just, you know, sticker sheet after sticker sheet. So why not put them to use? But once again, I mean, those guys aren't giving me any money, so it's not like this channel receives any funding from that. I'm just doing it just simply for the scale detail of having that on there. So really fond of these Boom Racing stickers, but the big problem is with these is they don't send out kits that have symmetrical stickers. So you can only, if you want them to remain symmetrical, you have to you're stuck with just one. So I got an empty spot over here looking for something on the other side, but that is what it's going to be for now. So I'm going to go throw some clear coat on this thing, and I'll get back to you. This really should be pretty much like just about the end of it. The interior is all set. I think I showed that much earlier. That's all set. Been painted and cleared, and then yeah, that's all ready to go. I'm really excited about this thing. Mixed results with the matte clear coat. A couple things sort of went wrong. A couple things sort of went right. A couple things kind of happened that I just didn't really expect were going to happen. I'm not just sure exactly what year this came from, or you know, who made it or anything like that. Like I said much earlier in the video, I got this essentially for free, so I don't know really any of the history on it, and I haven't looked up on anything. So I don't know how old the paint is or was, like anything about the quality of this or anything like that. But the clear coat interacted, as you can see, like all along, kind of bubbled and made some interesting sort of orange peelish kind of effects all along, like through here. This side might be a little more difficult to see. but in some ways I'm, kind of bummed out by that, but then other ways I'm not at all upset by that. You can really see on the hood where it really interacted just in strange ways and in different spots, and of course it really just reveals itself kind of just depending on which way you're looking at it in light. It kind of reactivated and sort of rearranged the metallic surface, so the metal flake in the paint, and kind of brought some of that up. I noticed as soon as I hit it, it looked, much more vibrant in terms of like its color, but obviously it toned down some of the immediate, reflective, qualities and properties of, well, obviously any of the shiny surfaces on here, including like the chrome and stuff like that. I think I got pretty much my desired result, I think, as far as that goes. If I want matte finish, they have to be silver. This is just essentially kind of dull chrome. So, long story long, I think I kind of ended up with a kind of a weathered, sort of pre-weathered or something kind of. It looked like it's been run, but I'm not exactly sure how to describe it. Other than I think it just turned out like, I don't know, like crap, unfortunately. But I'm still going to run it. I'm still going to use it, obviously. I'm not going to go for painting it, any kind of full, complete color. I'm going to take all of the masking off, and I'm going to mount this thing up, and I'm just going to go from there. So, not at all a full loss. In fact, maybe at some point in time it might be worth like just taking and getting some weathering done, and then hitting it yet again with another clear coat. Just to make it look, that much more real. Because I do think after, putting the decals on there and stuff like that, that it sort of set off a certain appearance that just wasn't quite there before. So it might work to do some weathering and then hit this again with another clear coat. So, all right, welcome back. I'm calling this the final segment of my Cooper Mini S custom build. I had kind of filmed a little bit of an ending and sort of realized that I hadn't really shown a proper angle. I was busy trying to hold it in the air and give you an idea of like what the ride height and everything looks like. So I thought, well, why not? Here, let's just even show you where I ended up putting the power switch. I tucked it up under the rear right here by the rear axle. You can see a little silver switch right next to that. So that worked out pretty well for location, keeps it up out of the way. Anyway, as far as ride height goes, I think I ended up with about as good as I can get with not only the way that it's mounted, but the shocks themselves. This was a custom set of shocks that I had made, and I ended up gluing on essentially the rod ends that fit this chassis. So it's kind of an irreversible thing, and unfortunately I can't get the collars off the top to be able to alter the spring tension, as in like putting in softer coils or anything like that. So this is as low as it's going to ride. And another point I wanted to bring out as well, and you can sort of see it on camera here, this was about a ½ centimeter short on the overall wheelbase compared to what the body actually is, and you can really see it at this angle, straight on from the side here, where as much of this fender ends up showing in the front. Now from another angle, it doesn't look quite so bad. And this is also too why I decided to go with this size wheel and tire. Some can say that, okay, maybe, I stretched the front end out a little bit to, to get it to make room for all this. But no, the real honest to gosh story of this is that, the actual wheelbase of this chassis is roughly a ½ centimeter short. I think the best part about this whole build was the way that I discovered the bumpers were able to be removed and I could use the mount posts. And that just left me with 2 screws in the front and in the back. So basically the old bumper posts mount right into the old bumper mount right on the frame. And then I just drilled 2 small holes in the front and the rear, so it is incredibly sturdily mounted. It's basically part of the frame. The frame and the body are one, and that's through the front and the rear. No attachment on the sides or anything like that. That is fairly soft still, or anything along, I'm not really worried about it. That flexibility actually kind of, in some ways, may help. It may push things off of a rock or something along those lines at some point. But The rock sliders that came on this chassis originally just weren't going to work, so away they went. So I went with gold headlights in the front, obviously, and red for the taillights, and I think that worked out really well. Just to add in touch, you know, I think more and more I look at all the customs that I've made and stuff, and the ones that I don't have taillights on, I've always felt like they're just not done. They may have headlights on them, but they don't have taillights. So even just throwing taillights in on this thing really, you know, just kind of set it off. So what else? It's kind of top to bottom, you know, it's running some kind of semi, you know, decent parts. I mean, it's got an Emax servo in it. So obviously it's got plenty of steering capability in it. RC four-wheel drive scramblers on RC four-wheel drive 1-inch stamp steel bead locks. I've got 1 gram brass hexes in there. These aren't extended. They're not extensions at all. They're just, I'm just running normal width. I do kind of wish I did have a fresh set of extensions to use on this truck, but it's okay that I don't. It's not necessary that I push the wheels out any further, because if I did, it would probably end up running more into the fenders than what it does. What else? Stock motor, stock gearbox in there, stock axles and drive shafts. I did put fast eddy bearings out on the outer bearings on all of the wheels all the way around. I did not have ones left that were large enough to be able to fit the inside where you know, the pinion and the axle spur are. Although I did pull both of those apart and make sure that they were well greased and everything is all set in the front and back. I have not pulled the gearbox open, no, but I really kind of feel like there's no need to. I just keep hitting it with a drop of oil every once in a while. I feel like it's pretty much more than what it needs. Running a 30 amp ESC, I forget what they're called. It's not the Ghoul RC. There's another sort of very, I don't know, generic, no-name ESC company out there. That this one's like kind of green, I think, but this was the 30 amp and not the 20. And I gave it a Red Cat radio along with a Red Cat transmitter. And this is decent. You know, at least it's got a dual rate that I can, you know, dial the dual rate back, so I'm not jamming these tires into you know, the frame and stuff like that, because it just doesn't need to turn that much. So, and also too, I do kind of want to bring out at least the point that though I said this thing really, you know, ended up kind of being mounted, you know, it's wheelbase is about 1/2 centimeter short. If I could just point to at least the benefit that ended up giving for the front end here and my turning radius, honestly, I don't care. It's not something that I am going to lose any sleep over. It really helped, I think, a lot, you know. And so, you know, as you can see, it's got plenty of, you know, plenty of ability to clear those front wheels. And it binds up a little bit when it's climbing, but that's only when it's really got like all of its downward pressure on like one corner or another. The back wheels don't bind up at all. Those actually really seem to work out great. And in fact, when this articulates, you can see they kind of stuff up into the wheel well. It just barely skips the inside, you know, so it doesn't lock up and it doesn't bind up really as much as what I was worried that it was going to. So all in all, just I think this has just been a fantastic project for me anyway. It's been a really fun one to work on. It's taken a couple days to get it to this point, and I'm really glad that I invested this amount of time into it, because I'm really just so pleased with the results. I really wasn't going to sticker this thing or decals or anything like that, but I changed my mind and decided, well, since, you know, RC 4-wheel drive likes to send us all so many of these decals, why not, you know, really start to put them to use? And so it's kind of the way I did the whole Milestar by Patagonia racing stripe all the way down the front. I thought that would kind of just a nod to the Euros on that one. Obviously there's not much for ARB, you know, hardware on here, but I felt like, you know, an ARB sticker in the very customary location for ARB stickers was almost absolutely necessary. Clearly not running Interco Super Swampers or GXL, you know, this isn't a Land Cruiser, but I just thought all these stickers just looked like they needed to be on here. And so gonna wrap this one up. I think oh, I did want to point this out. As I'm bringing this around, I do want to note that little pinstripe right there, that's my detail right there. That came with the the killer body Land Cruiser kit, and I don't know where you'd ever want to put that on a Land Cruiser, but I'm sure that there was a place where, you know, silver chrome trim like that, like probably a door, like old 70s, 80s, 90s style door trims and stuff like that used to be that way. Not so much anymore. They've kind of done away with that stuff. But anyway, this came with a few different stickers to be able to kind of put some body molding, you know, cut some blinds on there. And so what I did was kind of defined, I felt like, a little bit of what kind of disappeared with taking so much of the fenders away. And so what that did was it just gives, I think, something that, you know, for the eye to lock onto right there at the bottom of the car. So I just wanted to point that out. I'm pretty happy with that detail myself, that I took the extra couple seconds to peel those things off and make sure that they were nice and even and straight going on there. That stuff looks factory. So thank you so much for watching. Once again, please feel free to like and subscribe. Hit that bell notification if you want to see these videos more often or what have you. Do all that YouTube jazz. Just simply thanks for being here if you stuck around this long to the end of this video. Hopefully some of you are inspired to go out and do some of your own modifications. And feel free to link to some of those videos if you like, and have me check out some of the stuff that you've managed to come up with. And anyway, until the next one, take it easy out there. We'll see you soon.